Hi, I'm just testing my sound. I wanted to make sure you could hear my sound. Elisa, are you able to hear me?
Yep, I hear you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, how's everybody doing? Can you hear me?
Doing well, Jeannie. How are you?
I'm a lot better, thank you.
Good.
Elisa, Michael Drillinger and or Kevin McAvoy could be joining remotely.
Okay, I'll keep an eye out
Perfect. How's that?
Well, we were cut out.
Good evening. It is May 15th, 6:35 p.m. I'm calling Laws and Rules meeting to order. In attendance, we have Alderwoman Cheryl Mickens, Alderman Dennison, Alderwoman Pasty, Council President Andrea Schott, and Corporation Counsel Matt Jankowski. Okay, first thing on the agenda is the Community Preservation Plan update from Julie Noble.
Hi, everybody.
There she
Sorry I
is.
couldn't be there in person, but I am here to present with you for approval the 3 local laws to adopt the Community Preservation Plan and the 2 local laws associated with it. So the first law would be creating the Chapter 188 for the Community Preservation Fund and Advisory Board. The second would be adopting the Community Preservation Plan, and the third would be establishing the real estate transfer tax associated with the Community Preservation Fund. I've come multiple times to present the details. I don't have a presentation for you besides the actual local laws, which hopefully everyone has had a chance to review. I'm happy to answer any questions, but that is what I'm requesting for the night.
I have a question, should I ask?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Okay, so, yeah.
Okay, so.
We have 2 questions here.
Julie. So I just had a question, chapter 188, Community Preservation Act, section 188-3, purposes of the fund, items D and E. Do you have a copy of it?
I do. I also see that Matt is present, so this question may go to him or it may go to me, but you can go ahead. So 188-3. Yep.
Yes.
I have it. Yep.
D and E, is there a fee paid to the managers?
To the manager?
Yeah, like who, the entity that will be charged with managing the entity, the fund.
So managing the fund is actually, it's basically, there is the board that is going to provide the recommendation for how the funds are dispersed. But other than that, unless there's some sort of employees hired, but nothing under the statute basically will create the fund, create the board that provides the recommendations, but it's basically up to you guys how the funds are distributed.
Okay, so the Kingston Land Trust will not be receiving a fund and.
Not under the statute.
And it says that the transfer tax is set at 1.5% on page 5, article 3.
Yeah, that was also my question. And Julie, because I know that when you did your presentation, you shared with us that other communities there's a range of what communities pick, and I was just wondering why 1.5% was the transfer tax that,
Right, as opposed to 7.
as opposed to 0.75 or 1 or whatever.
Yeah, so as I mentioned in previous meetings, different communities have used different percentages. When the Kingston Land Trust went out with the polling, they polled on 0.75% and 1.5%. And they both polled equally based on the response of whether or not people will be amenable to voting, whether it was one or the other. Collectively, between the Land Trust and the city, we thought that 1.5 would be the most appropriate amount. And that's what we have here. If you would like to adjust it, you are welcome to do so. It is up to the council to set that. But we felt as though that was comparable to other municipalities that have recently adopted it. And was amenable to the community when we went out with the polling.
And then one last question, where does it specify that this would be levied on sales over 300, what was it, 350,000?
Well, it changes.
It
Look
changes,
at the paragraph 12.
there is a paragraph?
Give that.
That's in the third local which establishes the 1.5%. Subsection, the additional exemption, 188-14. So exemption in the amount equal to the median sales price of residential real property within the city of Kingston as determined by the State Commissioner of Taxation and Finance. It's not like that's determined by anyone local. It's basically the figures that
Also,
the
it's
state
based
has.
on the median price.
Yes.
which will change every year. So right now, if we would have had established it for this year, the current median price is 350, but we can't write that price into the legislation because it changes every year.
Okay,
So the way it's written, anything below the median price isn't going to be paying any tax. The portion of the purchase price above the median price, tax is paid on.
Okay, I have another question. And I'm correct in understanding that this has to go to a referendum at some point. And do you feel comfortable that 1.5% is something that would pass in the city's referendum?
Based on the results of the polling, I do. So first, to your first question, yes, if the three local laws pass through laws and rules and the common council, then that it would have to go to referendum. Do I feel like it would be adopted? I don't know that my opinion matters, but based on the polling, the poll says yes.
Okay, and then I had another question. In that same third law, it says that that this transfer tax is paid in addition to the real estate transfer taxes imposed by New York State. And what is that rate? I don't know if. So this is an additional tax
Yeah,
above
this is,
that.
yeah, so no matter what, New York State has the real estate transfer tax that's across the board anytime that real estate is sold. Tax, so this is an additional local tax that we're just capping on top of that.
And, okay,
And what is?
Yeah,
what's the
I don't-
formula for the real estate transfer tax? I don't have it directly with me. I can look up the information, but they have a formula, a certain dollar amount for every, $500 or something of that nature, but I can look it up for you.
yeah, I was just sort of wondering if people would balk at that if they see that, this is a tax above, and beyond that one. Because I don't know how large that percentage is. If it's small, then 1.5 is probably not gonna be that, I mean, it's not that significant. But still, it is a lot, like people are, right, that's why I was asking.
I will say that each of the other communities that have adopted this, this through referendum have passed by approximately 70% margin in each of the other communities.
And just to answer your question, so it's $2 for every $500 of consideration paid in a sale is what New York State charges. It's a real estate transfer tax.
So $2 for every 500?
And for property above $1 million, there's an additional 1% sales tax. The mansion tax, which is.
Yeah. Okay. Those are my questions.
I have more of a procedural question. Do we need to pass the secret resolution first?
I guess you would want to pass that resolution.
So when we're doing that, and it's saying secret determination for local law, and we don't have numbers.
Yeah,
You know which,
I don't specifically have where you guys are at, but you would present everything, you pass the resolution, you schedule the proposed local law and number them.
right, but on for the committee report,
You need to,
or I need to write, should I write the title for every single local law, which we don't technically have because it's not written. So I'm wondering just how just the wording of
Do we have
this.
the title of the law form?
Oh, on the secret one.
there's a draft secret.
Just-
Because the resolution here is for adopting the secret determination of significance for local law number blank, proposed local law number blank.
Oh, right.
So that's what I'm just trying to, we do need to pass this
so are
one
there
first.
pending local laws that,
Well, I'm just writing, that's what I'm scribbling, Michelle and I are doing here, writing out the committee reports, but we don't have, I don't know what the local law numbers is going to be. I could pick a number
Well, can you do that?
based,
well,
And then we can just make sure that the numbers that I pick are correct.
Would Elisa know?
Well, what I'm going to do is look back at the agenda and see which was the last and those along, just to make sure that they're in that order. Just eyes on that, because I'm sort of, like, it's a guesstimate here. Does that sound
Lisa,
okay?
help us with that?
That would-
Yeah.
I can look it up right now.
Oh,
Thank
yeah,
you.
you just let us know, but we just have to make sure when it goes through the process, we stay those numbers, keep those numbers. Okay, so this one has to be first, but
Yeah.
I have to finish.
So this is the.
They do have the titles for each of these proposed local laws.
Yes.
in that
Okay.
definition as well.
This one will be first, we're gonna wait for a second.
Okay.
If you want to.
Sorry.
She wants to go
in the dog park. I couldn't bring her home.
Right.
We had an uptown dog park.
So I have another question,
I
Julie.
started
What's, assuming that
No problem with
this rolls along as we're anticipating it, when it comes time for the referendum in the fall, will there be information put out about it so that people will understand what they're voting on? Will there be some sort of a publicity campaign to give information about this?
This is chapter 1.
That's a great question. So at this point, my role as a city, sorry, there's a lot going on right now.
Sorry, go ahead, I'm sorry.
My role as a city employee would be done from this perspective of advocating for the local laws or moving forward with local laws, stewarding them through your through this body. It then gets handed over to the Kingston Land Trust, who would be working on the campaign. So city staff and employees are not able to campaign for any referendum. So I can help provide objective information, data, whatever, to the land trust, but my office, our city, can't do any campaigning. I can't speak to the actions that the land trust will take. So the city will not be able to advocate for or against it. In terms of my role as a professional, paid employee, if you all as common council members want to speak to your representatives, advocate for, or hopefully for, but could possibly be against it, that's up to you. If you want to have it as part of your platform, part of your agenda, that's up to you. I will let so Michael Drillinger, who's the president of the Land Trust Board, and then Kevin McAvoy, who's the secretary of the Land Trust Board, are here. I can let them speak to if they know what their campaign plan is.
Okay, yeah, I'm curious just as to what happens next after we pass this and how information gets out to the general public. So if either of you gentlemen can answer that, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. So we think that an organic grassroots campaign could be successful in Kingston. We have a large list of Kingston influencers who've expressed interest in supporting our efforts. Our plan is to, at this point, we're not going to do anything until later in July because there'll be nothing for us to advocate for until later in July. Because you all have to, it's got to go through the legislative process there. But we're planning on tabling at community events where we can secure a table. We plan on hosting public forums in various spaces around the city. Private people have said that they would make their space available if we wanted to have a public forum to discuss. We plan to put advertising in local newspapers and make ourselves available for local Kingston radio to discuss. So that's the kind of campaign we're envisioning. We are right now developing the messaging. So I couldn't tell you what it is, but what we would like to do is highlight the benefits to the city of having this fund, the kinds of projects that the committee that'll be formed to oversee the fund will be able to undertake.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Sure thing.
And the Engage Kingston website will continue to exist with the document, and the city will continue to host all that information. It is a city document, and it ultimately will be city law. So all of that will still be housed at the city.
Okay. Yeah, that answers all my questions.
So Matt, can I just also clarify while we're waiting for Elisa, so we're gonna do a resolution adopting a secret determination for these local laws, numbers to be determined.
Andrew, you're gonna start with number 5.
Okay, so we just passed local, okay, so it'd be for local law 5, 6, and 7 of 2024. So then we would establish a community preservation fund. I'm sorry. So the first local law would be establishing a community preservation fund and creating a community preservation fund advisory board as authorized by general municipal law. That would be 5. And then number 6 would be the adoption of a local law to adopt a community preservation project plan. And then number 6 would be the adoption of a local law. 7, adoption of a local law for the establishment of real estate transfer tax.
Correct.
And those are the 4 we're gonna do in that order, and then we'll just have to make sure. Although I guess
Yeah.
if
So the only thing you're really going, they're all presented, and then pass the resolution, and then the hearing will have to take place for the 3 local laws.
we don't do the hearing, that's the mayor's hearing, but yes, yeah.
And then once you've gone through that procedure, then you guys can vote to pass the law. And present it.
I mean, the hearing for the secret, are you talking about, or the local?
No, no, we're talking about the hearing for the local.
Alright. Alright, but that's the order that we have then.
So the last one, can I see the last one? Number 7. This is 6.
7. I'm gonna put just number 5,
Yeah.
6. Lisa, I'm just gonna put the numbers on the top right corner, unless that's Janet doing this, but either way, I think it'll be helpful.
So this says 1.5% real estate. 1.5%.
It's 1.5%.
Real estate transportation.
So 1 and 1, yeah, 1 and 1.
1.5, which is 1.5.
Yeah, so did we establish it as gonna be 1.5 as opposed to 0.7?
I've been busy
We
doing
have
the,
not
My understanding is the recommendation from the administration is that it be 1.5 based on the information you received by poll.
I think what-
1.75 if you'd like.
I think what we could do is now that we have the order,
Yes.
that we just go through one and then discuss each one once we get the motion. But now that we have the order going to be voted on and everything's organized, is that okay? And then so we can have this conversation once there's a motion.
So you're gonna do the secret determination and then the law.
Yeah, I have it all here, I'm gonna hand it to Michelle, and she's going to, each one separately, and discuss, once there's a motion on the floor, then you can discuss it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Works out.
Okay.
the first.
Do we, need to say name?
Is it negative?
Yeah, we need to mention that it's negative, right?
Yes, that
Yeah.
that resolution is,
Oh, yes.
Like that.
Yeah.
Original considered English, significant local laws with a. That's grammar, but it'll work.
I don't have any treats, sorry. But,
She's being friendly tonight.
All right.
So Michelle will say it, you'll motion and second, discuss that one, and then we'll move forward with that.
Okay.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
All right, thank you. So the first resolution is adopting a seeker determination of significance for local laws.
It does say negative, it does.
Another.
5, local laws number 5, 6, and 7 of 2024 with a negative declaration. Can I get a motion?
Not the best grammar. Squeeze it in. Is there a motion?
Motion that we accept.
Just to discuss.
Let's discuss.
I'll move.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Okay, now we discuss.
Yeah.
Where my pause comes from, doing them all three together, if we were to decide to change the amount of the percentage, would we have to change, does that affect the rate of declaration that we are
I
talking
don't think
about
so.
with a percent and a half?
Oh, thank you.
No, that.
Okay. All right, that's all.
I mean, does anybody else want to separate these, or you're good, comfortable?
That seems fine, that's fine.
I think in mass.
It makes, yeah, it makes,
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're all related.
yeah.
Any further questions or discussion?
Well, if we're
About
going to
the
discuss,
Just this,
Just the-
just the.
yeah, just the name.
That's fine.
Any further questions, discussion on this resolution?
None
All
other
right,
than-
I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, passes.
These are.
4-0. Okay. So you guys want me to wait till you're done signing? Okay,
Sure, pay attention.
yes, thank you.
You can take this one, it's not, it's not critical.
That's what I was, I thought like Ralph went on the floor, that's why I was looking like a silly person.
Okay. Okay.
We could get up and sign it.
Makes
I was
sense.
going to say.
I'm gonna just sit here.
Yeah, please. All right,
I don't know, it's like 15 minutes.
Well, it's yours.
Oh, right,
Yeah, you-
okay. But you need to show.
all right.
Yes, that's all I can do. That's what I said.
I did not hear you say it. I just like, who's looking up?
Oh, who's looking at me? It wasn't me.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Okay,
Sorry.
Alright.
Really bad.
okay, no, it's okay. I just want to make sure I got it right. All right, moving on.
He's in some deep. Stop.
Come on, man.
What's his name?
Ernest Pigeon.
Oh, you said ma'am.
All right,
He did say that.
okay,
We expect from constituents.
hold of order. All right,
Okay.
adoption of a local law establishing a community preservation fund and creating a community preservation fund advisory board as authorized by General Municipal Law, Chapter 6S. Can I get a motion? Second? Okay. Discussion?
Okay.
Yeah, this is all coming down from state law. Okay, you're all good? All good? Okay, so I'm gonna call for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Anyone against? Okay, passes 4-0. Right. Okay.
You're not in the front of any, are you?
What's ring?
I just remember this.
Oh, do you wanna be a voting member tonight?
Oh, I wasn't planning on it. It was just coming up. No, I want to leave after the bike share thing. She's
Okay,
annoying.
okay.
Okay. Next, is the adoption of a local law to adopt the community preservation project plan. Can I get a motion?
Hello,
Okay. Second?
Second.
Okay, so this is that very large document, the preservation plan that we've all had for, you know, months and months, and
right.
so.
Well, and
Every-
well done, and kudos to those that prepared it.
Yeah.
Yes, it's an excellent plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Okay, so can I call for a vote? All in favor? Aye. Anyone against? No, passes 4-0.
Want to sign some more? Okay, good.
All right. Lastly, we have the adoption of a local law for the establishment of the real estate transfer tax. I have a motion. To discuss, yeah.
Yes, so I have a problem. with 1.5.
Can we
Okay,
motion and then just you second?
Yes.
Oh, second, motion second.
All right, you motion.
Second.
Okay, oh, sorry.
So now we can discuss, correct? Yes.
All right.
So, I'm uncomfortable with the setting of the rate at 1.5. I thought what we had discussed was, the median ground, which was 1% as opposed to the 0.75. That's what was
Or the
presented.
1.25.
I understand that there's a minimum and maximum. I thought we were in the middle at 1%.
I have my notes here
Mm-hmm.
and I have 1.5.
Because some communities go higher to
Yes,
1.7.
yeah, Red Hook
You go up to
is
2%.
Up to 2.
Yeah,
Okay.
Red Hook's 2, Warwick is 0.75, Town of New Paltz is 1.5, Town of Gardner was 1.25, and then I have us as 1.5.
And the other thing, just, the law actually allows, up to 2% for the entire consideration. Ours has an exemption, so anything under that median price is not
It's
taxed.
not
And
taxed.
only the amount of, so say it's $100,000 over the median price,
Right.
only that
Only-
$100,000 is
okay.
being taxed.
Now, I have a question in terms of when this goes to the public hearing. If we hear from, I mean, we will not have passed the laws. This is, we're recommending this, it then goes to the mayor, then there's a public hearing. If the comments from the public hearing come back that they'd rather see it be a different percentage, is that something that we can change or no?
Well, the public hearing for local laws are actually for the mayor to sign it into law. It's past
see.
what we do.
I
So if you hear the public saying something otherwise, you already passed it.
I
If
see.
you already voted on it, it's that the public hearing for the mayor's signature or not.
So
So,
signature or not, so it's not to make any change to it whatsoever.
correct, because you already voted. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it would be very hard to bring that back.
Okay.
So you
But
would
that's
want
why
to
we
know,
have 2 readings. People have 2 opportunities to come talk to us about it.
correct. Yeah,
But once it's established at 1.5, can it be modified upwards afterwards?
Yeah, you guys can pass a new local law changing that at any time. You can, it's not permanent, you can, take the tax out altogether. So you always have the opportunity to pass a new local law modifying.
Which is why, again, I feel that the starting point for us would be at 1%.
Okay, Michael?
I believe it was in the CAC meeting. I don't know if it was in caucus, but they said at 1.5 because there is legislation before the state legislature to incorporate housing into that, which currently is ineligible for housing. So we can always, if and when that law is passed, we could modify it would still remain at 2% under this legislation, if I understood it correctly. And it would just be a modification of that 2% about what goes to community preservation and what goes to housing.
I
So
see.
that's legal, we don't want to put it at 2, Because if this is passed, that would leave no more room for housing. This leaves that door open.
The Turtle's suggesting we move it down to one.
1%.
I don't think anybody's arguing to move it.
No, we're not.
I mean, if we
So,
didn't have the housing, answer too.
but we can start at one now
Yeah.
to go up to two. So,
Right, I
If
think
it-
this is where we start.
so it's, do we want one or do we want one?
Right, because I have heard from real estate, folks, you know, a broker, the head of the real estate for Ulster County, and, he was saying that this would impact sales.
I don't think that's true for New Paltz or for Gardner.
Well, you never know.
It's true.
Do they,
Well, I don't think that's-
there's 1.5?
I don't know what their percentage is, but they've not seen a decrease in sales because of, nobody's gonna suddenly buy a house because they gotta pay $2,000.
And, right, and I would say also that because of the exemption, it's not gonna impact people who only have a limited amount of money to buy homes because they won't be subject to it. They won't-
Well, but that's the median price of the home.
Right.
So that doesn't suggest to me that they have a lot of money, it just suggests that, their down payment is going to be effective. I mean, what's the mechanism? Do they have to pay this tax in advance of completing the sale at the time of sale?
So it takes the money out of their, when they get the deposit.
Right, exactly. So it would take the money out of their down payment? Or it would be in
It would
addition
give them,
to?
it would give them less money to put down for the.
Be like a
deposit. Right, I
Additional
mean,
fee.
But like using the example I gave before, where say it's the purchase price is $100,000 over the median price of homes here in Kingston. They're only looking at, $1,500.
Okay.
Is that what?
That's the one.
Would that $1,500 then be wrapped into the mortgage or would it come off?
Well, you pay the taxes at the time of the sale.
At the time?
So, and it depends, oftentimes, when they come compute, here's how much is the necessary down payment, here's how much your mortgage is, here's how much all the closing costs, they include all of those things when
Right.
they come, to how much they're going to lend you to purchase.
President Shaw?
so what is the method for tracking this? The success.
Clerk. So basically, it all goes through the county clerk's office and,
So like, to deter, so if we say we wanna do 1% now and we want it with the potential of changing it depending on the success level of it, is there some kind of method that we could have our eyes on this so that we can make those changes and so it's not just arbitrary? Like in 2 years, we'll look at this again.
like I mentioned, you can track how much money you guys are getting from the sales, but I don't know if there's a way to track how it might affect sales.
Yeah.
But it goes in a special account. It goes in a special account. The county clerk takes it off when you file the deed.
I just think it's hard enough to buy a house now with interest rates so high. I'd rather start at the 1%. I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but psychologically, if you, in other words, if you go to town of Ulster, if town of Ulster is not imposing this particular tax, then you have two houses.
I've had realtors talk to me as well about it, being nervous.
But I would be fine with 1%.
Yeah, me too.
That makes like, it doesn't matter to me too much between 1 and 1.5, so, and then come back if,
I think so this is the tax that only comes into play after the median home price. So this doesn't generate that much money. It'll take quite a while for this fund to be able to, if we lower it, it takes that much longer for this fund to have a purpose, to buy easements, to purchase property to convert to wetlands or to rejuvenate, or build public trails or all the stuff that you do. And so we're arguing over $500.
yeah, but
What I'm saying is that we have an
Because the median sale price is like 379 or something like that. That only kicks in at 380. And then you're only paying the 1% above 379, or whatever it is. And so it's very small
It's very
potatoes.
small.
But it is a tax nevertheless. And people are resistant to additional taxation.
But this is people who chose to live here in Kingston.
It's not affecting.
No, It's not a new tax on
It
somebody
is-
who
it
lives
is-
here.
No, I understand that it's not imposed on people that live here or on the seller. I understand that it's on the buyer. But I'm saying that buyers now are being pressed with high interest rates, and an additional tax. I think we need to moderate ourselves on this. It's a new thing. There's a lot, there's not. I understand that other areas, other municipalities are doing it and they've had some success, but they've had success initially. So to your argument that, you know, it's not going to immediately accumulate to, you know, a sizable amount of money, well, the evidence would seem to just, you know, to say otherwise, that it does quickly accumulate.
Based off of sales,
Yes,
But not
not
the
based
fund
off of
itself.
individual purchases.
right, based off the sales, the accumulation of sales, right?
But I don't think if I'm buying a house in Kingston, I chose to want to live in Kingston because of the school district, because of the attractions that Kingston brings, because of the culture, because of the open space.
Basically because of the affordability.
Because, I mean, nobody's buying a house in Kingston because of the affordability.
That's correct.
I'm never gonna be
Oh,
able to
no,
buy a house.
everybody's buying a house in Kingston because of the affordability.
I would
Because
love to be one of those people.
Because the other areas that we're looking at, that we're comparing this to, they're much higher. Their housing is a lot more, it's Newport's, Gardner,
Well, Gardner, yes, but I don't think
Medical. Newport's.
I think if you want to buy a 2-bedroom house here in Kingston, you can go on Zillow now, but I don't think you're gonna see a significant difference, and I don't think even that significant difference, again, this is above the median sale price, so it's really, you know, if it's $100,000 over the sale price, that is $1,000.
And just
So
so
if you can shout out.
too, with buyer, seller paying, generally you can have a contract that says that the buyer pays, but, and that's added to purchase price, but generally, it's when the property is being conveyed from the seller. So oftentimes it is the seller who will be paying the price.
Still, you know, this isn't gonna hurt somebody who's buying a $100,000 home, not that that exists here in the city.
Well, given a $500,000 home, it would be what, another 150,000 over that, so it would be 1.5%. Yeah.
$1,500.
$1,500 if you're buying a $500,000 house, that's not, in the scheme of things, it's not a lot of money.
And so if you are a working family who is able to find a $200,000 house here in Kingston, you're not paying that tax. This is tax on people who are flipping houses. This is a tax on people who are buying bigger houses, because they wanted to live here, because we value open space, because we value community preservation. This pays into that fund.
All right, I'm just gonna take a straw poll, in favor of moving in, and you can join it because, right?
Oh, I
Yeah,
see.
it's straw poll.
So 1 or 1.5, I mean, that's.
Could we do 1.25? I mean, split the difference here.
All right, so, if you're in favor of, 1%. All right, 1.25.
Oh, I didn't know that was on.
I could get 1.25 or.
I'm warmer on
I
1.2.
would do 1.25. You know,
Okay, yeah.
the message, you send a message, by going to 1, you're sending a message. Opposed to 1.5. You're saying, I understand, you know, I'll go to 1 to send a message to the realtors. 1.25 might do the same, send the same message. It's not gonna be significant either way in dollars. You know, 1.25 is not gonna.
No,
1.25%.
but it's still a little more than what you
But
would get
it's-
if you had one.
It sends a message that, you know.
Okay,
I mean, I honestly was just picking, so
All right,
I'm fine with 1.25, you good?
I prefer 1.5, but if it's the
Terrible for what?
So we have a nice compromise here. Just come up, we've got the.
All right, so there's a motion, right?
Yeah, so, well, I
So
think we could just change it, you don't have to make. a motion.
All right.
We would just do, from the, where is the language here? So areas by creating a 1 1/2, so it'd be 1 and, you want me to say 1/4?
Yeah. Fraction.
That will not affect.
Because we
the
can
part
make
of-
changes on this. while
Yeah.
we're in Discussion, and then so it would be.
Okay.
I mean, that's not what
We
we
should
should
think about
And
it.
there's at least one other section in there that discusses.
Yes, right, both places.
Do you want me to go through it now and make those changes now, or do you want to just?
I'll.
Okay.
And he'll let us know.
It's, for the council's perspective, that's correct, we're good.
Okay, so, calling for the vote on adoption of a local law for the establishment of the real estate transfer tax at 1 1/4%. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, passes. 4-0.
Thanks for the fruitful conversation.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Julie.
Thanks, Julie.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Julie.
everybody else.
Gives us some place to go to.
I'm glad this is being set up. Thanks for your work on making this happen.
You're welcome. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Kevin.
You can always increase it down the line.
I know, that means I want 0.75 per 1/2. That's incorporated.
So this is, the next thing on the agenda is support for strong packaging and reduction and recycling act
Yeah,
that
that
Alderman
was-
Childress sent in, but if we were to wait, I don't know that it would get up to Albany before the legislative
I
session.
don't think it's gonna get up
This is
to,
really our last legislative, this is our last council meeting before session's really over.
when session over.
Like the Friday after our
Friday.
June meeting. I
Yeah,
don't think
Right,
Carl's
that's what he's
gonna
gonna
say, he's just passed this.
But if we don't do it,
Yeah, it needs, they're on a very strict timeline, so
Yeah.
it needs to be going through if it's gonna get on.
Yeah.
but I mean, so it would have to be voted on Tuesday of that week. The mayor would have to sign it on Wednesday. And that gives them 1 day to delivery if they're gonna consider this.
Well, I mean, I don't.
Have you been tracking this to see if that they're supportive of this? Is this like?
I don't know really anything about the bill beyond the sponsors memo. can't
yeah, I
answer if-
haven't been following.
I can't answer if it's on any agendas.
And this is a memorializing resolution.
And it's-
So we're not taking any action, we're just voting to support this.
I didn't read through and follow through with everything, because I just saw everything. Table this without thinking, but the legislation session's not really in our favor, so.
It's the Friday of our council meeting.
Yeah, I think it's too late.
I think we should pass memorializing resolution saying that they're paid for their years of work in the legislative year.
Has anybody actually read the law?
I did look at it, and I did look at it, and I have a couple of very good friends who are involved in the anti-plastic sort of movement. And there's some really interesting work going on in terms of reducing packaging. There are pilot programs happening but here in this country and in different parts of the world to try to standardize packaging so that it can be recycled and reused as opposed to just thrown away, because recycling is a very inefficient way, it turns out, to deal with packaging. So anyway, I think anything that will support a reduction of packaging, I generally tend to favor.
Right, and it says that it's supposed to, reduce, it creates savings for local governments.
Can I also offer another suggestion? Instead of a memorializing resolution, we could write a letter. Telling
You're gonna.
our
write-
representative, I could do that.
I think letters.
Ready.
I will-
Yeah,
And then
Letters are more-
they get it sooner.
yeah.
And then so pen something, send it, and then whoever wants to sign, sign. It
Okay.
won't be through official
Okay.
channels, but they'll get it faster.
They'll get it faster, that sounds fine.
And it's more
Yeah.
personal and.
Yeah, no, I'd be happy to sign.
Yep.
Oh,
Sounds good.
So I just
I'll
give
sign.
myself a
I'll
moment.
sign it.
Yeah, I'll sign it.
How do they do that?
All right, next on the agenda is e-bike legislation.
I use the
Alderman
history
Dennis.
here.
Yes.
We started to, this reared its ugly head before my time on the council. It got tabled and lost as it should have. It was way too ambitious and way too crazy in the beginning. I sat down with the administration of the Complete Streets Advisory Council to write a RFP, or the beginnings of a legislation about having a rental city bike. A rental bike system with bikes, electric scooters. And we got deeply involved in it, we decided this is crazy. That's putting the cart before the horse. Until the common council says they're gonna do it, why would we waste our resources writing this long and involved RFP and going through all this rigmarole?
Yep.
So this is the next step. This is if the common council wants to move forward on this. This resolution allows the administration to start to begin to write an RFP, solicit proposals, to go for someone who would want to put in place a shared rental bike system. So
That makes sense.
so that's why it's simple. It has, all the other stuff in the RFP later.
But but don't we still need regulations?
Yeah, that's next.
So you're saying, you feel like we'll pass something.
We'll pass something, the administration will write an RFP, we'll take a look at it. When they go to solicit proposals, because they can't contract without us,
Right.
and we'll have a shot at them. And that's when we can get involved in all the rules and details.
So this is sort of just supporting it in principle.
This is
This is what
saying,
we
yes,
like to
go
see.
go forward and do something so that we can get this started. Because right now, we're going nowhere.
But it's not really principle, it's actually saying that we're establishing a system. I think this is too simple. I agree with you that the other one is too complex, but I think this is too simple because it talks about having a regulated system, but we don't actually have any regulations.
They would have to write that.
Right, but shouldn't we be doing that before they write an RFP
I
out?
would say-
Because
I would
then if they write that and they bring them back and they're not,
Insane.
if they're not in sync
But
with
if I
what
was
we
the-
want, and then we have to, then what happens? Then we're kind of stuck, like, because then we have
We say
this.
no. See,
Can we say no?
We don't get
If
to
I'm the
say.
We don't get to say no.
If I'm the administration, I'm not gonna spend my resources developing a whole bunch of regulations and RFP if I don't know you guys are on board. It's.
But I'm saying we come up with the regulations.
But we don't know enough
while
about the
also
system.
Approving the
Yeah, I
system.
don't think we can.
I don't think we can come up with regulations. I don't know how best to
Yeah, we're not-
regulate them. This is as part of what we could put into the RFP, that you want to see
Right.
what other communities do and find some best practices for how.
For
these-
the laws and how, do you want a company to come back with how they want to be regulated in our city?
All right, I want their input.
Michael.
So I have too many 10,000-foot questions. Like, I think that's where we're at right now. Is sort of, please, is at the 10,000-foot level of, I've got concerns about use. I've got concerns about data harvesting. Because I mean, at the end of the day, these are data companies that rent bikes on the side.
Right.
And so I've got concerns about what our use is. And I have the sort of 1,000-foot question of, I just came back from Denver recently. And, I saw those bikes in the river, in the dump store.
Down in the city too.
I've got a lot of, those kinds of 1,000-foot concerns.
Right.
And then,
And that was a lot
20-foot
of,
concerns.
and that was a lot of what we talked about before your time is, yeah, I mean, it's going, like, yeah, we had a lot of those questions.
Like,
And
my
we-
10,000-foot question that's stopping me right now is privacy.
Yeah, the
Data
geo
privacy.
fence.
But from my perspective, I think they're all legitimate and they all need to be addressed. But the question is, do we start the machine or not? I mean, if it's gonna be up to us to do this, I don't see it happen, to be perfectly honest.
I do, I think we could do, I think, so the reason why we stopped is because the council person who was the liaison for this left the council abruptly. And
I don't know if you get as many calls as I did about it, but I had constituents all over the place on this thing.
But I think those
Meaning
no,
like-
no, I think that's why the council.
The idea.
The draft that was put out.
Well, because
Yeah.
it had a lot of rules like around behavior and it had a lot of rules that were duplicating state law, right? Like, so there was just a lot of extra, it was 13 pages long.
Wow.
And Matt, it's
Yeah.
Marissa, right? Like, do you remember?
I
Yeah, so Corporation Counsel's office like started the whole, the original draft and putting it together.
But I tried to, because I looked at this
Mhm.
yesterday, I think, because
Yeah.
I've had other stuff.
Been busy, right?
So I was hoping to go through our old legislation before tonight, I just ran out of time. But I was easily going through and striking things out, like, okay, this would make sense to talk about, not to present. So, I mean, I think taking that, there is definitely stuff that we could build off of. And I think there is a medium between no regulations, and just saying we're adopting a regulated system without any regulations, without going so far as like talking about permits, that's a state law and, all of that. And I think like the reason why it paused was just because the liaison from the council was tasked, whether or not he did a good job or not, I'm not gonna go into that opinion, but he left. And and then we had all kinds of changes and we just haven't picked it up and sort of we did it. So I actually think this council can do something. I don't, you said that we wouldn't do it. I think we would. We wanted to.
Yeah.
It's, like I said, it was Michael who was tasked to do it and not this Michael, the other Michael. And that was the reason for the pause. Is that simple?
So
My other concern
Yeah.
is that it is May.
It is what?
It
May.
is the month of May.
Oh,
And if I'm a vendor who wants to do this, I'm gonna miss this year.
But aren't we already?
Yeah, I would
considered
think
that?
we already are.
really think this year?
Yeah, because that was the other thing, I was like, if it was time sensitive, I would say, okay, maybe let's go forward, but I think it's already too late for this year. So I would just rather have something that people are a little bit more comfortable with, that have a little more.
Because it was also, it still has to go to finance again, then it would have to go to finance to establish the fees for the vendors.
I would expect that the RFP process would happen before you do that. Establishing fees prior to the input from the vendors, kind of an exercise in futility. You've got to have a conversation with them about how much how much they can pay, what will work. We can't set fees. We can't set numbers of bikes. I mean, we don't know enough about that to make a viable proposal.
We couldn't do that based on other research from other municipalities on the things.
But the request for proposal hopefully would encourage the vendors to give us rationale and reasons why they're charging fees, why there's certain fees, what the
It would-
regulations are. That could be, it depends on what's in the RFP.
It would be our fee that for them to be a vendor in the city, not like the fees for the
Oh, right.
rentals.
Right.
It would be on our fee schedule.
But everything.
Right, if we set an unrealistic fee, we're not gonna get any vendors.
But I mean, we could still have some, and we could go through and say, okay, so wait for that and add that, because we would just say, we're gonna establish a fee. We don't have to say what that fee is, but I think we're all in favor that there's going to be some kind
See,
of
I think,
fee for a service to
I
come.
think that's RFP stuff.
Has anybody done a study for demand of this among city residents?
Not really. I mean, when we started to work on the RFPs or on the other legislation, we did reach out to vendors and talk to them. So, said, what do you think? We get some feedback about like numbers of bikes that they expected to be, necessary to service this area, things like that, but nobody got any real solid.
Right, but there hasn't been sort of a polling of possible consumers that would suggest that there would be a need for it, because I mean, I see most people have their own bikes, their own e-bikes, their own, so.
Yeah, I think the need would come from tourists who come here and have that car.
I think that it would solve, I'm still on the fence about this idea in general, but I think that would solve some of the requests from the 3 business districts for the bus, the
Right.
connectivity bus. So I think it would see a lot of tourist use, between the three
So people,
districts.
you know,
People just come over the weekend and they want to get.
You know, and they're big boats. How do those people move around the city?
Yeah, but that's 3 months out the year.
Right.
Well,
that's all.
that's actually one of my questions is, are we gonna require the vendor to collect all the bikes at the end of the March?
Good question, I don't know. Yeah, and there's both
And
models.
then what about charging the bikes? I mean, are people gonna be, we're gonna have the
They're
same
gonna- well,
situation that we have in this.
In the city,
Yeah.
it's a dock system,
Yeah.
and the docks are charging.
Right.
You know, I would expect that we would want a dock system. I don't think we want a dock system where bikes are all over the place, you know.
I still
But we,
think.
again, we don't know enough about this to make it a reasonable.
To make any regulations, I don't.
We don't have the expertise, and I don't see us getting the expertise. I think we need to help, I think the vendors need to help us.
Because they're coming in here to do business, so they need to give us, their perspective. They're not gonna come here if they don't think anyone's gonna use it.
If they're interested.
But,
I mean, so right now, there's some of these
maybe-
places, some places are having trouble because the cost is such that the demand is strong. They're not doing it.
And this is not costing us, because it's the vendor that's laying out the money that's gonna be making money, so
That's the goal.
the city, right, so the city is not losing or making money. It's providing it's allowing a vendor to come in and provide a service that we think might be useful for people who visit. Right.
And get to the last mile stuff, people who are using public transit, which is a huge challenge here, by the way.
I know,
The electric bikes are a great last mile.
Yeah.
Piece of equipment, if the bus doesn't go by your house, you can have a dock by the bus stop. And people can use that as a mode of transportation. There's lots of bike riders who are using it as their sole
Yes.
transportation in the city.
that's
You
true.
see all-
You have to say something.
Yeah, and I think that's part of, obviously this should be a revenue generator for the city, but I think that needs to be part, I don't know if that's an RFP conversation, I don't know if that's a policy conversation, but whose job is it to fish it out the rundown? When it is that DPW's, is that the vendors, like, that's sort of my questions on moving forward, is like, what are the costs to the city? Because I do think a lot of these are gonna end up not where we want them, I don't know if there's a way to stop it from getting to Target.
Have you used the rental bike system?
I used the one in Denver.
And you use
but
your
I never
credit
gone
card?
to the city limits.
Right, and they had your credit card.
Yeah, that's
So if you
true.
didn't bring that bike back, you bought a bike.
That's true.
Right.
Just-
But what about, what size cities, what New York, what cities in the state, that's our size?
I was gonna ask
Well,
that
there's
question.
there's a
like
bunch of,
comparable size.
up in the capital region,
Right.
they have like the
CDTA,
yeah,
the Capital District
Insurance.
Transportation Council has a system. New York City has a system.
But are they like populated? I mean, are they similarly populated?
I think they're,
Hoboken has it, like
Hoboken has a system.
same with, that
You know,
shares the same system as
The,
New York City.
I've seen it in Florida, I've seen it in Denver, I've seen it in, Burlington has a system, Ithaca has a system.
Wouldn't it be worth looking at their laws too, to see what they have in place? Because, that would be another way for us to learn, because that is our job, is to come up with the regulations and legislate. So I kind of push back when you say we don't have the expertise, because that is, yes, we don't have the nuanced,
Right.
expertise on bike shares, but that is our job, is to come up with regulations with our wonderful court counsel helping us, and also not reinventing the wheel, where we look at similar sized cities, and that's how we built legislation many, 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 many times. So, like I said, I just would feel a little bit better if there was some that says that there's a regulated system, but we have zero regulations. So just having that, because it's not time sensitive, just at least let me go through, I'll do this as homework too, 'cause what else do we have to do? Go through that 13-page document and pull out things just based on this conversation, like, hey, what about this and that? So just we have something that we could then build on. And I get the fees too, we could wait on that, but I just feel like there should be some kind of regulations in place before we move forward.
We can ask the Complete Streets Advisory Council to reach out to Ithaca, because they've used
Yeah.
them for sidewalks, so they've used them for, those kind of things, they might have some resources.
They probably do.
And they would definitely know what to do with, riding bikes to the place, because it's all from college kids.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was
we've
gonna
had
say, the thing is,
regulations
it's
around.
so different though, in terms of, demographics. I mean, they have like, what, two colleges, like major, economic drivers right there.
And not nearly as much tourism.
So, well, I do think that the last mile thing is a really good point. And, we do see that use of community for the electric bikes, so this would be a help for that. But I will,
And
this is,
some of these people who are affording electric bikes aren't buying.
yeah.
They go to that guy and renting them for whatever.
Right.
But
So this is, I don't know the history enough. Did we have a vendor ready to go last time?
No.
Like, do
Well,
they,
we
are there
have-
companies that scale to our size?
the reason that this surfaced when I was on the Streets Advisory Council is vendors did approach the city.
Okay.
That's Burgers one and another one. So we would like to put a in place bike share system in your city. And we said, oh, we can't do that. And so, they went back and forth for a while and then they went away. So either went away because they were discouraged,
Well, of course,
you
because
know,
there was nothing allowing them to.
right, or it didn't make sense from a business model, right? Or both.
I feel like we had so much that was done that was good, that was coming from our corporation counsel's office, not like that we were doing it, you know what I mean? So I just,
One of the big blowback I got was that there was, and you mentioned this when you were talking about this, there was stuff in there that was duplicative to the state law
right,
and was restrictive to, like, you're running with no hands, I mean, come on.
right,
Right. And that was just stuff like I said, when I was trying to quickly get through this, I was striking all of that, so like that is unnecessary.
Right.
But there were some in there that I thought would be, we say that makes sense right now, even without and stuff that would not make sense.
So is there a way to start looking at vendors at the same time, do you think, or?
Well,
Or, and
you
work
have to
on this?
I believe you have to get vendor input on any of the stuff that you do because you're, whistling in the wind if you're not, because, if they're not interested, then you're wasting your time,
Right.
Yeah, but then it's in place for, I don't know, it's.
I mean,
Or they look at it and they say, well, I guess they're not
Yeah,
really looking for vendors to come into the city, they're not welcoming my proposal.
I can tell you other city legislation that's in the same category as that has gone nowhere.
Yeah.
Because before your time, because it was that piece wasn't there. You need the feedback, I think.
Yeah, I agree, like, again, compromise, go with 1.25 again.
And yeah, not doing this is fine, but
Well, I'm not saying not do it, because I think this is a good idea, I just would like I said, a little bit of tofu on the balance.
So would you then bring this back to the next laws and rules committee next month?
If you want me, why don't I strike out what I think is good and then share it with you, and then we can bring something back?
sure.
Because we all agree this isn't time sensitive, right? We'd rather,
Okay, so, all right, that's fine.
okay,
So it'll be on next month's agenda, that's good.
thank you for listening to my concerns.
Well, you have the advantage of having had these discussions before, which we were not part of.
Yeah, we could send out, right, to everybody, what we were looking at last year.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, I will,
Bye,
Bye,
Pigeon.
Pigeon.
But,
Michael, what is your resolution?
Don't let-
Oh, you can use it. Oh, okay.
Okay. All right.
okay, so
All right.
now we're down to
Central Hudson.
Central Hudson.
Central Hudson.
Wait, who's the we and what's the Hudson?
All right, so this is something I put in, most of the municipalities in the Hudson Valley are opposing, they're passing a resolution opposing the delivery rate increases that are supposed to be effective July 1st. I didn't, no, it's okay. So this is to ask that, they not increase them, and that we would be sending this resolution to Michelle L. Phillips, Secretary of the New York State Public Service Commission, and then all of our state electives.
So this is another memorial, this is a.
Yeah,
memorial
yeah,
resolution
yeah.
Indicating our support. Yeah. Or our opposition.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a resolution, adopting a memorializing resolution opposing delivery rate increases by Central Hudson Gas and Electric Corporation. Can I get a motion for discussion?
I'll move to discuss.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I mean, no one,
Yeah.
small businesses, homeowners,
Yeah.
renters, everyone's bearing the brunt of this, so can I call for a vote? All in favor? Aye. Okay. Any opposed? No, okay. Thank you, thank you.
Get up pretty early in the morning to get one.
Okay, all right, it is,
Old business?
oh, we have nothing, right? There's,
Well, we should
Yeah.
talk first.
okay, so old business food trucks, which was introduced last month by Alderwoman Edwards.
She is here.
Okay.
Jeannie, do you have anything to add for this month?
Mute. Good evening, everybody. I had a meeting with Matt, Chief Tinty, building inspectors and Steve Knox and, from the health department. So what we're doing is we're just putting some information together. I'll probably be seeing Matt next week. We're putting some information together so we could bring it to you. This is basically totally about public safety and how we could make things a little safer on the note of talking with Chief Tinty and everyone else at the table last week. They definitely want some rules and regulations in place. And I think each one of them will come and present as soon as I have a meeting with Matt.
Okay, sounds
Okay,
great.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
So we'll just keep
You're
this
welcome.
on business.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
All right, thank you.
thanks. And then the second piece on old business is also Alderman Edwards naming the land at 4549 Van Buren Street after Dejanay Mason, naming it Dejanay Mason Park. Do we have the?
We have not heard from, I have not gotten anything from the rec department, so we can't, a rec commission, so we can't move forward with it. Have you heard, Jeannie, if they had a meeting?
Right, I was over there, we presented over there, I gave them all the information, they've all agreed, now they have to get Kevin Gilfeather just has to get it to the mayor and to you guys, and then we'll be able to vote on it through the laws and rules. But so far, everything seems to be A-okay, but I don't want to speak out of turn without, excuse me?
Sorry, go ahead.
I just didn't want to speak out of turn without the paperwork to back it up. As far as I know, everybody agreed with it. Now they just have to send the paperwork over.
Yeah, as you know, we can't do anything until we have that paperwork, so.
Correct.
It's not as old business. But
Okay.
excellent. We'll have the paperwork. Thank
Okay.
you.
Correct.
Thanks, Jeannie.
Thank
Okay.
you, guys. Yep.
Last item on the agenda under old business is Kingston Charter Revision Task Force, Alderman Scott Childress.
Yeah, so the last meeting, Rennie, Sarah and I decided to get together to talk about the educational aspects of it, but it was like, we never heard back from Rennie before he left. So we couldn't manage to get that meeting in, and of course now he's away, so when he gets back, I may wait a day or two before we.
Maybe 2 days, and
2
then,
days,
yeah, we gotta get going on this.
Yeah, so it's still gonna be on old business, but
When is he doing?
He's teaching and then traveling in
Right.
He will be back
was in
for the
Croatia.
29th meeting. So
Okay.
but I think he told me he might be jet lagged, so I
Okay.
think someplace around then. Yeah, it's just bad timing, because he had finals and stuff before he left, so.
Right.
No, we'll get it
But we're
done.
not gonna
We're
forget.
just-
We're not gonna forget to talk to him.
No, we will not.
So,
I don't know who's more of a pest, me or Sarah.
I know, I'm very pesky myself. Even though my name is Patsy, I can be very pesky. Pesky, really,
All
yeah.
right, it is 7:45 PM. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
And I'll second.
All in favor? Any opposed?
Okay,
Thank you, Lisa. Have a good night.
thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
Good night.